Namarishara Sachirananda Rupam Rasakudalam Gokule Rajamanam Jasoramiyolukala Navamanam Param Rishnamantam Tato Drutya Gopya Rudantamoho netra yugmam rejantam Karam bhoja yugmena santanka netram Purusa sankampa trirekanka kanta Sitagraivam damodaram bhakti bhadam Iti Trikswalila Berananda Kunde Swaghoshnami Majantam Akyapayantam Tadiye Sritage Shubhakairjita Tvam Puna Prema Tastam Shata Vriti Vande Varam Deva Mokshana Dimba Nachamyam Brene Hambare Sharapiha Pindam Temba Puranatam Gopala Balam Sadha Me Manasya Virastam Kemanyai Idam te mukam bhojam antyanta nilayir Ritam kuntalaishnikha raktaishta gopya Purushtumbitam bimbaraktatharame Manasya virastamalam lakshalabhai Namodeva Damodarananta Vishnu Prasida Prabho Dukachalati Magnam Vipadristi Pristyati Ninambatanu Grihane Shamam Agyamedya Shaktrishya Vipadristi Grihane Shamam Agyamedya Kuvera macho bhada murtyai vayadvat Tvaya mochito bhakti bhajo krito cha Tata prema bhaktim swakame prayacha Namokshe grahao mesti damodareha Namaste Stundamne Spuradipti Dame Tadiyondaraya Tavishwasya Dame Tadiyondaraya Namo Radhikaya Tandiyaya Namo Nandalilaya Devaya Tubhyam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Kesha Kishori, Jaya Kesha Kishori, Jaya Kesha Kishori, Jaya Kesha Kishori. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. To the Supreme Controller who possesses an eternal form of blissful knowledge, whose glistening earrings swing to and fro, who manifested himself in Gokula, who stole the butter that the gopis kept hanging from the rafters of their storerooms, and who then quickly jumped up and ran in retreat in fear of Mother Jasoda, but was ultimately caught to that Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisances.
Upon seeing his mother's weeping streak, he cried and rubbed his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes were fearful and his breathing quick, and as Mother Yashoda bound his belly with rope, he shivered in fright and his pearl necklace shook. To the Supreme Lord Sri Damodar, who is bound with his devotee's love, I offer my humble obeisances.
O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for liberation, nor eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My only prayer is that your childhood pastimes may constantly appear in my mind. O Lord, I do not even want to know your future as Paramatma. I simply wish that your childhood pastimes may ever be enacted in my heart.
O Lord, take from your black fish lotus face, which is encircled by looks of curling hair, have become
was born from your abdomen, which was bound with a rope by Mother Yashoda. To this rope I offer my humble obeisances. I offer my obeisances to your most beloved Radharani and to your unlimited pastimes.
Shweta here. जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरावन चारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरावन चारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय all glories to the assembled devotees all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 5 Chapter 14 Text 45 यज्ञाय धर्मपतये विधिनये पुणाय योगाय सांख्य शिरसे प्रतीक्ष्वराय प्रकृतीश्वराय नारायणाय हरये नम इति उदारम् हास्यन् मृगत्वम् अपि य समुदाजहार यज्ञाय धर्मपतये विधिनैपुणाय योगाय सांख्यशिरसे प्रकृतीश्वराय नारायणाय हरये नम इति उदारम् हास्यन् मृगत्वम् अपि यः समुदाजहार यज्ञाय धर्मपतये विधिनैपुणाय योगाय संख्यानाय हरये नम इति उदारम् हास्यन् मृगत्वम् अपि यः समुदजाजार. Ladies, please. Yajnaya unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enjoys the results of all great sacrifices. Dharmapataye unto the master or propounder of religious principles. Vidhinayipurnaya, who gives the devotees the intelligence to follow the regulative principles expertly. Yogaya, the personification of mystic yoga. Sankhya Sirase, who taught the Sankhya philosophy, or who actually gives knowledge of Sankhya to the people of the world. Prakriti Ishwaraya, the supreme controller of the cosmic manifestation. Narayanaya, the resting place of the innumerable living entities. Nara means the living entities, and Ayanaya means the shelter. Haraye, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Hari, Namaha, respectful obeisances. Iti, thus, Udaram, very loudly. Hasyan, smiling. Mrigatvam although in the body of a deer. Yaha, who, Samudajahara, chanted. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Even though in the body of a deer, Maharaj Bharata did not forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when he was giving up the body of a deer, he loudly uttered the following prayer. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is sacrifice personified. He gives the results of ritualistic activity. He is the protector of religious systems, the personification of mystic yoga, the source of all knowledge, the controller of the entire creation, and the supersoul in every living entity. He is beautiful and attractive. I'm quitting this body, offering obeisances unto him, and hoping that I may perpetually engage in his transcendental loving service. Uttering this, Maharaj Bharat left his body. Purport. The entire Vedas are meant for the understanding of karma, jnana, and yoga, fruit of activity, speculative knowledge, and mystic yoga. Whatever way of spiritual realization we accept, the ultimate goal is Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entities are eternally connected with him via devotional service. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Ante Narayana Smriti. The perfection of life is to remember Narayana at the time of death. Although Bharat Maharaj had to accept the body of a deer, he could remember Narayana at the time of death. Consequently, he took birth as a perfect devotee in a Brahmana family. This confirms the statement of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 41, Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Bhrashto Vijayate. One who falls from the path of self-realization takes birth in a family of Brahmanas or wealthy aristocrats. Although Maharaj Bharat appeared in the royal family, he became neglectful and took birth as a deer. Because he was very cautious within his deer body, he took birth in a Brahmana family as Jadabharata. During this lifetime, he remained perfectly Krishna conscious and preached the gospel of Krishna consciousness directly, beginning with his instructions to Maharaj Rahugada. In this regard, the word Yogaya is very significant. The purpose of Ashtanga Yoga, as stated by Madhvacharya, is to link or connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The goal is not to display some material perfections. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're near the end of this chapter. One more verse tomorrow, and this chapter about this whole section about Maharaj Bharat and the 3 lives that he had to take on is over. And then there's the description of the descendants of Maharaj Priyavrata furthermore. Shukadev Goswami is describing how Jadabharata, or in this case specifically when Maharaj Bharat was in the body of a deer, at the time of death, he loudly called out, praying to Lord Narayana, although he was in the body of a deer. And he glorifies the Lord as he is sacrifice personified. He gives the results of ritualistic activity. He's the protector of religious systems, etc., etc. That means he's offering prayers in complete realization. And this complete realization existed prior to his taking the body of a deer. Krishna had preserved his consciousness at whatever stage he was at. Unfortunately, Maharaj Bharat became neglectful of his, we should say, regulative principles. Not in the sense of the four regulative principles that we talk about, but in terms of the regulative principles that govern bhakti. And the most important of all regulative principles is to always remember Krishna and never forget him. Rupa Goswami quotes Padma Purana that these two are the mother of all other rules and regulations. The reason the rules are there is to enhance remembrance, and the regulations are there to minimize forgetfulness. So when the rules of Krishna consciousness say, be clean or do like this, the do's are all meant to enhance remembrance of Krishna. And the do nots are meant to protect us from forgetting Krishna. However, some people are very expert at following the do's and the do nots, but they don't remember Krishna or they easily forget him. And Rupa Goswami warns us that is called niyamagraha. Not following the rules without properly understanding why we're doing so and what's the purpose behind following the rules and regulations. So he became neglectful, and it's described that he knowingly became neglectful. And that knowingly being neglectful, to make it worse, he even rationalized it. We were hearing this morning in the kitchen that he rationalized the whole thing. That it's quite okay that I'm protecting this deer after all. How can we not protect another living entity, etc. It was his residual bodily tendencies. The in very minute quantity, but it definitely still was there. And unfortunately, the consequence was they had to take a body of a deer. But Krishna, being very kind, he protected his consciousness, that he had memory. This is very rare. And so when he took the body of Jadabharat, he was very clear. This time, I'm going to be very, very vigilant. Absolutely no chance for becoming neglectful at all. And so the best way was to just act as if he was deaf and dumb and mute, deaf and dumb, and just didn't care, didn't want to take any risk. This verse is when he was a deer and he was leaving his body as a deer. And it's described that he loudly chanted this prayer, Udaram. And his whole consciousness was hasyam. He was smiling. One of the reasons a person of this character smiles when leaving the body is because they are dhiras and they are not bewildered by the change of body. Dhiras tatra namuhyati. For those living entities, especially human beings, every living entity is afraid of death. It's not like certain living entities are not. Every living entity is afraid of death and will do anything to preserve life. Specifically for human beings, at the point of death, there is immense grief and pain. The immense grief and pain is because the conditioned living entity does not want, has a very, very great sense of attachment and ownership, false ownership. Yesterday we were hearing. So I'm just going to continue from there on. The sense of aham and mama is very, very strong. In fact, the stronger the sense of aham, the greater the sense of mama. Mama means mine, and I means aham is I. I am this body, and therefore things or people connected to this body are mine. The sense of this is mine is very, very strong. And this is what keeps the living entity within the material world. And we've been hearing that the sense of mama grows stronger and stronger as soon as there is sexual contact. As long as that's not there, the sense of mama is weaker or doesn't exist. It's weaker. So it doesn't mean that celibates don't have a sense of mama. It's there, but it's not so strong. Because as a celibate student, the principle that's taught again and again in every aspect of life is that everything belongs to the Guru and Krishna, and I'm just a menial servant. That mentality is reinforced in all activities. But as soon as one enters family life, because it is a concession, there is concession for sex. As soon as that happens, the knot tightens. So this false sense of proprietorship, then it grows and grows into, we heard yesterday, in land, in children, in the sense of property or wealth, artha, dara, wife, and grows and grows and grows and grows. And it grows to such an extent that the person forgets the purpose of life and makes his purpose simply one thing: to maintain those things and to expand them. If he cannot expand, at least he should maintain. So this expansion program is the mama aspect acting out really strongly. And one of the ways that it grows is how much ever the person has, he always feels it's not sufficient. One wife is not sufficient. Boy, managing one is very difficult, but one is not sufficient. So he looks around, shops for more. One or few children not sufficient, looks for more. One house is not sufficient, looks for more. One car is not sufficient, looks for more. And if it's not car, then it's a boat, then it is this, and it's a what's it called? Recreational vehicle, RV, etc. It just grows and grows and grows, and there's never this upper limit of how much money is sufficient. You ask anyone who's involved with making money, how much is sufficient? How much ever you give them, it's not sufficient. And part of the context we are in, the environment we are in, it makes us compelled into thinking that yes, how much ever we have is not sufficient. Because the expenses are high, inflation is very high. How much ever you've earned, once you visit the hospital, you come back perhaps with better health, but with no money. Everything is sucked by the hospitals and the medical system. For example, not that there's anything bad, it's just that that's how it works. Or this or that, and so that keeps on increasing and increasing to such a degree that the purpose of life is completely, it fades right into the background, and then one forgets completely. Therefore, at the time of death, one is very afraid because all that he has worked for has gone to waste. There's nothing he can say that will remain with him. Nothing. He has to go back alone or leave this body alone without anything that will carry him further on the path of self-realization. He has sufficient karmic credits that will carry him into another body. That's for sure. What that next body looks like, what terrible condition he may or that living entity has to be in, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? So that's the fear of death or the pain at death. And so most people cry. They're afraid. In this case, Hasyan, Mrigatvam api. Although he's in the body of a deer, he was smiling. And Samudajahara, he was loudly chanting these prayers to Lord Narayana. This is the perfection of life. So Prabhupada starts the purport with, it's a quote, it's a translation or explanation of a particular verse in the second canto, which ends with Ante Narayana Smriti. And he says, doesn't matter whether you've taken this path, that path, another path. It doesn't matter what path you've taken. The perfection of that path should be that at the point of death, you should be able to remember Krishna. If that can happen, that path is successful, or it is valid. And our acharyas explain that those paths, while they may take a person to that point, those paths are wrought with risks. The risk-free path is bhakti. The path of yoga is full of risks. The path of jnana is also full of risks. The path of bhakti, it's not that there isn't risk. There isn't. There is risk. As long as we are in the material realm, there is always some risk. In fact, risk is a good thing. Without risk, the tendency to become complacent and hit the cruise control button is very, very high. That risk or the challenge constantly from the material energy keeps the living entity alert and vigilant. If that was not there, if material energy was this soft, pleasing, so cooperative energy of Krishna, which is how the internal potency is. If the external potency was like that, nobody would take up to Krishna consciousness. Nobody would remain serious in it. Because we're in the material realm, there is always that risk. It keeps us alert. This is why the Avarnatmika Shakti is always acting. It's trying to cover our consciousness away from the remembrance of Krishna, and the living entity is expressing his will to remember Krishna. That's how the bhakti process works. So at the time of death, somehow or the other, to remember Lord Narayana, to remember Krishna, is the perfection of whatever we are doing now. So in our Bhakti Shastri class, we gave everyone a little exercise about death. We got everyone to close their eyes and imagine for the moment that was their final few moments of life. And in those final few moments, what is it? If you had to pray to Krishna, what would the prayer be? And many persons described it's, first of all, it was a little difficult to imagine it was the last few moments. And second of all, it was difficult. It was difficult because so many things were passing through the mind. But time is also passing. It was difficult to say. We didn't ask them to express what their prayer was. We asked them to express what their experience was. I said there was fear. There was anxiety. Some people said, I was just somehow or the other praying. Let me just remember you. Let me not forget you. Let me not forget you. Etc. Um, and the process of bhakti is such that there is a chance, there's an opportunity provided to start off somewhere, if we left it off somewhere else, in the family of a brahmana or an aristocrat. Because in these two families, the basics are taken care of. In the family of an aristocrat, there is no shortage of food, clothing, shelter, which are like what we call the bare necessities of life, the basics. So possibly one will not give the excuse that I don't have anything to eat. My first order of business is to get some money to eat something so I can then think of God. So that excuse won't work. And in the case of a Brahmana's life, with the Brahmana family, money is not the criterion. In fact, Brahmana means they're not meant to be rich. But the whole environment is surcharged with a lifestyle by which Krishna can be remembered easily or relatively easily. Because that's what Brahminical lifestyle is. Makes it easy. Of course, in Kali Yuga, it's a little odd because one may be born in a Brahmana family in Kali Yuga and be completely atheistic, possible. It doesn't mean that being born in a Brahmin family or an aristocrat's family means that one will be Krishna conscious. It means that the opportunities are very high, the facilities are very great. Still, it depends on the individual to take up Krishna consciousness or not. But there's all favorability. Yet, being born in an aristocrat family, one can become extremely, what we call mischievous, arrogant, and prodigal. And in a Brahmana's family, one can become very materialistic. One of the things about Kali Yuga is that Brahmanas are all materialistic. You can't find genuine Brahmanas. So Prabhupada said that the goal of the Krishna consciousness movement is to create a Brahminical class of people. By birth, one cannot be a Brahmana. The Bhagavatam is full of examples to disprove the point that one's varna is decided by birth. Hundreds of examples. This whole dynasty of this king, that king, this Manu is discussed to show how different persons fell into different varnas by their activities. Different, either as brahmanas or either kshatriyas, like that. Different things. But for me, the phrase that stands out is vidhinaipanaya. Vidhinaipanaya means who gives the devotee the intelligence to follow the regulative principles expertly. Generally, when we when we say regulative principles, I'm going to focus on the four regulative principles that the Hare Krishna movement, Srila Prabhupada is very particular about. When we express to somebody, or in our society, we follow the four regulative principles. Even if we came from backgrounds where from morning to evening, all we did was break these principles. In fact, our whole sense of what is morning and what is evening had changed. Right? Morning is when you wake up, and evening is when you go to sleep. And many of us, we woke up in the evening, or our day started after the sun was high up on its zenith. Oh, what's for breakfast? Supper's for breakfast. And dinner was usually breakfast. That's why the restaurants like what's that, IHOP and Denny's, they do very well because their clientele only shows up after midnight. So for us, what was beginning of the day, ending of the day was totally, totally distorted. Now, what to speak of what all the kinds of foods we ate? I'm speaking we because the life prior to and now this stark difference. The kind of foods we ate, what we called a beverage was very different, right? What was our concept of beverage? It has to be something that is fermented and alcoholic, otherwise it's not even beverage. Water? What's that? Water was not even considered a beverage unless it looked sparkling and brown in color. If it was close to Coke, that's beverage. Otherwise, it's something clear liquid. Come on. Why would I call that a beverage? And highly speculative lifestyle. Didn't care what the consequences were for what we were doing. If someone told us there were consequences for what we are doing, we thought they were old and grumpy and completely crazy. We liked life on the edge. So we saw the movies that took us on the edge, and friends that were like that. And what to speak of sexual engagement? By the time we were coming out of elementary school, we were experts, Naipunaya. We knew everything. We had done it. Been there, done that many times. Especially nowadays. Boy. By the time you're out of elementary school, right, there is sex education. And what is the purpose for sex education? What is the reason for education? So you know what not to do, right? But what is the modern concept of sex education? So you do it safely. What is safely? There's no concept of safe sex. Like that. So from there, we come to the Hare Krishna movement, and we were recently hearing glorification of Srila Prabhupada, that in the late 60s, okay, when Srila Prabhupada came, these activities were like at their heightened expression. It was called the hippie culture. Absolutely no rules about anything. And here's an elderly Swamiji who comes from India and tells them, you have to follow these 4 regulative principles. What? And they did. That's even more surprising. And he took them from that condition to a completely different platform. That's the empowerment Krishna has given, Vidhi Naipunaya. It gives the intelligence by which one can follow those principles. So the principle is the connection with Krishna, the connection with the Guru Parampara. So yesterday we were talking that the whole system of education disconnects the heart from process of education. It's completely here, intellectual. The concepts are intellectual, the curriculum is intellectual, and it disconnects the heart from the whole process. And because it disconnects the heart in the education system, there is no concept of character. Because heart means character. Kindness, compassion, humility, tolerance, non-violence. These are things connected to the heart, not to the intelligence or to the mind or the mental. All our education is on this level, and therefore, you ask a student in the modern context, follow the regulative principles, and he'll look at you as if you were one of those you came from the planet of the apes or something. Although we say we are from the planet of apes, right? From, what was that? Homo sapiens from Neanderthal, whatever. This is the planet of apes. Someone told Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, Darwin said that we all came from monkeys. He said, your ancestor must be monkey. My ancestors were poets. They wrote great poetry. You must have come from monkeys, not me. Like that. So Krishna gives this wonderful intelligence. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Ye namam upayanti te. So when we think that I have the ability, then we're standing on a wrong platform. The ability comes from Krishna. The ability comes from Krishna through the Guru Parampara. So when the relationship is strong, when the relationship is vibrant with the, I guess we should call it the previous generation, or with the predecessors, the spiritual master, the Vaishnavas who are caring for us, when those relationships are strong, that relationship is the fence that protects. Oh, I wouldn't do anything that'll harm this relationship. I wouldn't do it. And what is it that makes us consider that relationship is gratitude? Oh, so much has been given to me. How can I not? How can I not value it? And then naturally the litmus test is when that is violated, or we step outside those boundaries, then it's an indicator. Oh, I need to go fix something at the level of the heart. Not necessarily, some external things are also necessary, of course. But the real transformation happens at the level of the heart. So we reinstate ourselves in this Vidhi Naipurnaya position so that the expertise necessary comes. We're empowered by it. Because Krishna is called Dharmapataye. He's the master of, the propounder of religious principles. That way we can laugh our way back to the spiritual world. I'm saying it as if it's very easy, or that seems trivial. It's not. It is serious. But giving up a body, the training Prabhupada is imparting through his teachings and through his followers, and such stark examples of persons leaving their bodies, is so we know that we may also become strong enough dhiras that when that situation comes, that we are ready without those attachments that might hold us down or hold us back. Um, and we hear that ultimately it's the holy name of the Lord that takes us from one condition, whatever that condition, to a level of transcendence. So he remembered the Lord, loudly chanted out his names, and became Jadabharata, perfectly liberated condition. And in his lifetime, he taught Maharaj Rahugana the same principles of Krishna consciousness. And when we hear that next verse, he left his body. So, any comments, questions? Etasha? Oh, wonderful. One of those rare days.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I don't know if it's in relation with, sorry about my broken English.
No, that's perfectly okay.
I don't know if it's in relation with the topic today
Okay.
or not, but probably you can help me to understand one thing. It's about authority, and it's in the special context of the temple life. I'm not talking about sannyasis, I'm not talking about grihastas or vanaprastha, I'm talking about brahmacharis in the temple. I don't know how many years did you live as brahmachari in the temple, or did you live, or I don't know. But probably you can help me to understand.
How many years I lived?
Yes.
I walked into Grahast ashram with my eyes closed, stumbled, fell on my face, and struggled like anything.
Okay, the thing is that it's so difficult, it's a personal question. It's difficult to me to accept as an authority uh, if the devotee is not follow the morning program, for example, or the programs in the evening, whatever. I mean, is a senior devotee because is more older, or because they do or they did something heroic in the beginning of his devotional life. But it's so difficult to me to accept a devotee as an authority if this devotee is not following or the morning programs or whatever. And that is my question. Is wrong my way to think? I have an opinion that the best soldier is the best leader.
That's
Or
correct.
so I was wondering, probably I'm wrong, my way to think is wrong, or probably there is a specific particular time that the devotee can say, okay, I can retire for the sadhana program established by Srila Prabhupada, and I can do, I don't know,
Whatever I like.
more soft, more. I don't know. So that is my question. What is the proper way to understand this?
Sure.
It's so difficult to me to understand.
No, wonderful question. A very honest expression. Um, so you asked me first how many years I've led in a temple. 0. I didn't, even before temple, I didn't have any training as a devotee prior to becoming married. So it's described that ideally a young man is trained nicely, and then they have a choice that they make based on a multiple set of criteria that I continue, they are called Naishtika Brahmacharis, or I enter Grahastha ashram and they're called Upavarnas and they Upakurvanas and they continue through different phases of life. And in many cases, myself included, Krishna consciousness is something that we stumbled upon, at least the way it manifested. And I had to rewire a lot of things that I had gotten myself into, either the regulative principles or the lifestyle or aspirations, whatever. So for quite a long period of time. However, once having taken up Krishna consciousness, the expectations, in one sense, I could say expectations, although there was no one standing there saying, I'm expecting this of you, the expectations I'd created for myself was that I have to try to live a lifestyle that is very similar to someone who's already trained. Similar is take someone who's come to Krishna consciousness very late, like a Bhakta Glenn, very late in life. In one sense, there's a lot of catching up to do. In one sense, although there's no pressure to do so, but that's how we see it, life. So that's the first question. Will I say that my training of Krishna consciousness was any different than a temple environment? No, I don't think so. Although I was not living in the temple, we were living like as if we were in a temple. In terms of possessions or occupation. Of course, occupation was, there was income and livelihood like that. But in terms of sadhana, this or morning or evening, preaching, all that was very intense from beginning itself, very intense. Now then, in terms of authority, um, regardless of whether one is in an authority position or not, first of all, they're devotees of Krishna. Okay? And as devotees of Krishna, everybody has to follow chanting of 16 rounds, following of the four regulative principles. There is no, oh, I should now retire, I couldn't break the regular. There's nothing like that. Everyone follows it. That's a vow we make. Every one of us makes. So everyone has to follow that part. And to the best of one's ability, uh, the strength of Krishna consciousness comes from following a regulated lifestyle. Morning program, evening program. A morning program means Mangalarati, chanting, all of that, Bhagavatam class. And unfortunately, in our movement, there are some leaders who don't do so. Now, and whatever their reasons, health reasons, whatever. Mostly it's health reasons. Quite a lot, I would say about 85% or more is due to health situations. That prior they've given and done so much that it has caught up. The body or situation has caught up. It has become like that. And if it is something else, whether it is health or something else, as younger devotees, we have to be sure that we have to be careful to not fall into a judgmental place. It's between them, their guru, and Krishna, and between them and Krishna. But to say that I cannot put my faith in them uh, has to go back to what is it or why is it that I cannot put faith. One way would be to approach that authority and ask, what is it? Can you please explain what is happening in your life that I don't see you here or there? What is going on? That's the best approach, so that there is no interpretation of, that's what must be going on. As devotees, the first thing we do is we clarify, we ask. Yes, yesterday or day before, I was saying to someone that when something is not clear, we have a tendency to come to conclusions. It's just innate human tendency. But the first order of business as devotees is to ask, why? Was this happening? Was that happening? What's going on? And we can ask, there's nothing wrong. And then we may get a different sense of appreciation. Oh, that's what's going on. Oh, this is what's going on. Right? I don't like to speak of myself personally because I'm sitting here. But since it's come up, I'll say it. In my life, there are multiple dimensional things that are going on right now. We've had 2 years ago or 1 year ago, we had many pujaris, I would say. Sufficient number of pujaris such that the morning worship was fairly okay. There's always some tension about who's available, not available. But in the past few months, those who are possibly trained as brahmanas, either they have not expressed that they will do, or for some reason they're not able to do. So there's a shortage. So that's one. So it's either me or my wife as one of the persons to do. Another is health. Some are the other, and I'm sure there are many others who have health issues, so they can attest and to drag the body, to push it beyond limits. If I were to ask myself if what strength in the body is, I can tell you that it's not physical. I don't have the strength. I just don't have it. I'm literally like that. But there's some strength. We're pushing. Every one of us is pushing ourselves beyond some limit. True? It's not just in my case. Everyone. Everyone is pushing. First, because that's the sense of responsibility we have. Then there is good, bad. I don't evaluate it. I have family responsibility. So right now I can't leave. This child is still very young that both parents cannot leave and go. It's not proper. One has to stay back. And we have help. Someone will once in a while stay back if both need to be here. At the same time, I can't just take that help for granted every time. Oh, that's how it will be. It's irresponsible on my side, like that. And it's not something we talk about often. I sometimes share with Jai Jagannath, and then sometimes with others, but that's what's going on. Plus 6 programs a week. It's tough. Yet there is Mangal Arati happening at home. Yes, there is everything's going on. Evening Arati happens, class happens, morning Mangal Arati happens. It happens in a different environment, but it happens. And then it's every devotee's own, what's that word? Responsibility to take care of themselves. It's very important. Each one of us is responsible for, like Prabhupada said, you fly your own plane. Such an environment helps fly the plane easier. So that's now that the best thing is to ask, what's going on? Or I'm having difficulty placing faith in whoever is that authority, whoever it is. It doesn't have to be this one, that one, anyone. Better to ask. And the third aspect is if we are unable to place faith, then that is something we have to check for ourselves. What is it that is stopping me? Most likely it's our perspective of things. Yeah? And the fourth one, the other question you asked was, does it mean, and I'm sure you didn't mean it that way, but does it mean that, oh, someone's become senior or whatever, and so now they have done something heroic in the past, and so now it's okay, they're off the hook? No, no one's off the hook. Everyone is. Everyone is committed to taking care of their Krishna consciousness. Now, outside of the personal context, principle. On a principle level, a Kanishta Adhikari becomes alive, energized, and strong when they are adamant about their regulation. Wake up at this time, go to bed at this time, eat at this time, like this. That is the strength of a Kanishta. A Kanishta who doesn't follow regulation cannot grow, will not grow as a devotee. As a Madhyama, whoever is the Madhyama, regulation is not the main criterion. Although it's part of their lifestyle, it's not like they don't care for it. But they can voluntarily give up the regulation for the sake of preaching. And they have the strength to do so. A Kanishta cannot do that. You see a Kanishta on the name of preaching goes out and does some late night program, they don't see them. They can't catch up. It completely puts them off kilter for a few days and weeks if necessary. But Madhyama is more resilient. It's not about regulation per se, in the context of doing things on time like that. Of course, I don't know anything about Uttama, so I can't say. They're always Krishna conscious. Doesn't matter. Those are some thoughts. Yeah? Anybody would like to add to the conversation, the discussion? You have something to add to this? Okay. You want to add to this? Or a separate thing? Okay, so we'll shift topics. No, we'll shift topics.
Number 43, and let me just read the one sentence. It says in this verse, the Lord is described as Uttama Shloka. Uttama means the best, and Shloka means reputation. So I was under the impression that Shloka means verse, but then it says reputation here.
In Sanskrit, the word Hari means the Lord Vishnu. It also means to take away. It also means monkey. So shloka also has connotation.
Multiple.
Connotation.
Okay, I was just.
What is the verse for?
Reputation. Well,
Glorification.
yeah.
So someone who has a reputation, for them we create we express a shloka.
Okay, thank you.
On shloka?
I didn't want to add anything to this.
Oh.
It was not perfectly clear. But in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, 11th chapter, it's verses 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33. So it's a verse where Krishna is giving a series of qualities up until verse 32, which is like devotee is Kripalu and Akrutadroha, and it's this long list of beautiful qualities. And when you hear about such qualities, you think, this is a devotee. He's got all these qualities. And in the purport and the description of Jiva Goswami, these three verses that gives this long list of qualities represents the lowest grade of practitioner of devotee, which I found that was
Shocking.
a big of a shocker there, because this is what we would say. This is the Uttamadikari. So then second verse gives a description of how a devotee, he may understand the value of following Dharma, which has certain qualities attached to it, and the negative effects of not following that. But he rejects both Dharma and Adharmic activities, and he just is, completely surrendered to Krishna. This devotee is of a higher caliber. So it was described there that the devotee, this type of devotee, second grade of practitioner, he may not exhibit all the qualities, in fact, and he won't even care to try to exhibit them or anything, and he's still in a higher position on account of his deeper level of awareness of Krishna. And then the 33rd verse is it's like a far-out verse describing my devotee may or may not know who I am, but because he has a Nanya Bhav and he's approached me with a certain desire to develop a certain level of relationship with me, this type of practitioner is considered to be in the most exalted position. I didn't want to comment because I don't have all the details assimilated, but I'm just giving like the gist. I can read it later. But I just found that to be a very interesting description because our criteria for analyzing who's in a devotional position is obviously not always very well informed.
Right.
And we end up putting ourselves in a dangerous position on account of just looking at externals. There can be a neophyte who's very regulated in the program, and he's still, and in terms of his awareness of Krishna, is very unevolved. Or there could be a devotee who you may never see at a program. He might be actually much more evolved. Of course, within the institutionals, we have standards, and
Sure.
that just goes on. But in terms of our own personal analysis, if we understand at least where our level of awareness is in Christian consciousness, we have to be very careful in our analysis, because our analysis could be, I just read this section about a week ago, and I was blown away. I was like, the list of qualities are quite amazing. Some of them are like really far out. He's conquered lust, envy, anger, greed. He's mitabu, he eats very little. He's completely humble. He shows compassion for the welfare of all living entities. I'm like, these are like Uttamadikari, and then this is the lowest grade of practitioner. You become quite shocked to hear such a thing. And then another devotee he's rejecting, he may not even exhibit any of those qualities. He's in a deeper level of awareness. So anyway, I just wanted to express that from the Bhagavatam's context that it's very difficult to actually ascertain who is in what position.
It is, and I didn't want to. The reason I answered the way I answered is more on a human, personal level. So it touches somewhere. That's the reason I took that approach. But yeah, thank you. Listen. Okay? Dr. Matthew?
Hare Krishna. I heard this phrase is like goes like this, like
You heard this phrase that goes like this.
yes, attachment and aversion are of the same essence.
We've heard usually that aversion is the flip side of attachment.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Something along the lines of that.
Yes.
What I've noticed as someone that's struggling in spiritual practice,
You've noticed in your struggles?
yes,
Okay.
that the impotence or the the conversations that go along, and usually it is following the four good principles. But from what my understanding is that one could be spiritually aware, and maybe they do certain sinful activities, but that doesn't really question the strength of their spiritual life and their attachment to their higher power.
It is not in line, your statement is not in line completely with Prabhupada's teachings. If that were the case, Prabhupada would not have stressed so much on the need for following regulative principles as a platform on which the consciousness is developed. He would have been like the other spiritualists who would say, this is okay, that's okay. And so Prabhupada said, our philosophy is not you're okay, I'm okay. Our philosophy is I'm okay, you're not okay. This is our philosophy. I'm okay, you're not okay. He said like that. And I'm okay is not because I'm some self-righteous, arrogant fellow, but I'm okay because I'm following things purely according to Prabhupada's teaching. I mean, not me, but Prabhupada said that our teachings are pure. We do not allow for impurity to come in. So, for example, and this is important in our teaching, we may say it nicely with some finesse, but we don't compromise on the truth. We can say it with finesse, very nicely, in a very sophisticated way if necessary. But we never compromise on the truth. We say it as it is, right? So if someone says cyanide, very deadly poison. If someone says, I don't take so much of cyanide, I only take, like a pinch. That's only little. And we don't say, that's okay. Cyanide little is okay. No, kills. Absolutely no cyanide. So to say that, I am, or whoever is more aware of the personality of Godhead, or you use the word higher power, Krishna, but at the same time doing something that's against the regulative principles, then the tatastha lakshana, the marginal tendency is very prominent. And in the marginal tendency, the remembrance of Krishna is not strong. They may be recalling of Krishna. If you read Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada describes that smaranam, or remembering Krishna, goes through many levels. The first is recalling. Once in a while, the name Krishna passes through our consciousness like a comet passes through. Oh, I remembered Krishna today. That's great. From recollection, there is some remembrance. For some period of time, we could be aware that we are in Krishna's presence. That grows into concentrated remembrance, to absorption, to meditation, to samadhi. So we can't say that someone who's in samadhi and someone who's recollecting Krishna are both Krishna conscious. In yes and no. And the violation of the regulative principles obstructs remembrance of Krishna. You can't say, nobody can say, I'm violating the principles, yet I'm remembering Krishna. They're mutually exclusive. You can't. Up to the point of breaking them, we remember. When we are breaking, we don't remember. Right immediately, we do remember. Oh, what have I done? But at that point, we don't remember Krishna. Is that okay? Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Today I had vowed to myself, I will end class at 8:15. 8 Asha's fault. Huh? I know, we do start. Even then I'd start. I'll finish it.